evening, and welcome to Hug Jacket Asylum. Strap in and make yourself comfortable. You're in for a long stay.
Good evening, loonies. Hug Jacket Gamers here. My name is Peter.
My name is Eric.
And my name is Tor.
And us three are here today to talk to you about things. First off, we're going to let you know about what's going on a little bit in our personal life. Tor, you first.
Yeah, Eric can't share his Doritos. He really hates sharing his Doritos.
I really don't think we should talk about this because this is kind of a sore topic.
For those of you who don't know, Doritos is a meme that somebody made with a Doritos bag and the name Darude, which is the guy who made the song Sandstorm, which is making a comeback after its...
After 20 years.
20, yeah, it's been like 10, but yeah.
It's been a while.
I guess it is like 20.
But hey man, he was dubstep before dubstep was dubstep.
He wasn't though. But,
Sure. I'm going to have to take Tor's word on that because EDM is like a new thing. Oh, yeah. No, I want to know that song. I know that song.
Pretty sure everyone knows Sandstorm by Darude.
DDR?
Sure.
Anybody
unless
play DDR?
you were
Yeah.
born yesterday.
I was not. So
Quit
I
implying
hope so,
that,
'cause
Tor.
that
maybe
beard is a little big
maybe one
for-
of our viewers is like a new parent and their son or daughter was born yesterday.
And they really are a bad parent for letting
If
them
they
listen
didn't-
to this podcast.
If they didn't put the headphones on their belly while they were pregnant and played a rude, then that child is lacking.
Okay, so Tor, for real, like what's going on in your life? What's something that maybe you did this week or that you're proud of or something that you're looking forward to?
That is actually far too personal for me to share. It has to do with my health and going to the bathroom, so I'm sure you don't want to hear about it.
Well, that's the whole point of us talking about it is I want to hear everything about you sending faxes to Seattle.
Oh,
That's pooping.
yeah, I sent a solid fax to Seattle for the first time in 4 months.
Excellent. Was there a little bit of telegraphing too? Or telegramming?
There was a
What's
lot
a
of
fax?
quinoa. There was a lot of
Come
quinoa.
on, Eric. You were born
Fact-
yesterday.
Wait. Hold on. Actually, I find it funny because
No more wiggling the mic.
Hey, wiggly Mike. But I find it funny because quinoa is these little pellety grains, and they're really delicious.
Yeah.
You mean quinoa?
I actually thought for the longest time that it was quinoa when I played Final Fantasy IX. One of the characters is named Quinoa by default, and I thought it was quinoa for the longest time.
Well, anyways, they look like little
Video
eyes.
games ruin your life.
In Bloodborne, there's this whole theme of eyes. Give us eyes, eyes on the inside and lining the inside of your skull with eyes. It's a huge theme in Bloodborne. My poop is lined with eyes because I've been eating quinoa or quinoa or whatever you want to call it. It looks like that. It looks like your poop has eyes. It's just a bunch of
Ooh,
eyes
horror
in your
movie
poop.
title.
The poop
The poops have eyes.
So that's what's been going on with my Doritos.
All right. Hey, viewers, just in case you were wondering about my opinion on quinoa for whatever reason, it's high in fiber and protein, although it is also high in calories. So even though it's delicious and kind of good for you compared to other grains out there, you should really be careful on how much you eat. Eric, what's going on in your life?
Jeez Louise, I don't know, nothing.
You got to give us more than that.
Oh, okay.
He hasn't shared Doritos in over a month.
Yeah, I haven't shared Doritos in over a month. I don't know. Let's see. Work is slowing down. That sucks.
Work is slow, so you're not getting as many tips. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, it's gonna be dead at work, so there's not gonna be as many people coming in to eat. You know?
Gives you more time to
it's-
bang the
it's-
waitresses.
It's hot as fucking balls in Arizona right now, so everyone left the state.
But they've been scheduling me less, which will give me plenty more free time to work on music and
Play
art
video games.
and play video games. Yeah,
Awesome.
Also,
is cool.
Uh,
and
videos based on Doritos.
I've gotten slightly farther in Bloodborne, which is cool.
He's almost
So
caught up
how
to
much
me,
time have
actually.
you? Yeah, how much time have you played in Bloodborne as a result of you not having to work as much?
6 million hours.
Oh,
and
I
that
have no
equates
idea.
to how far in the actual game? 30 minutes if there weren't any bosses or bad guys?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay, I would
It's been
say
a
that
long-
I'm halfway through the game. Eric is probably like 2/5 through the game. Like he's like almost at the halfway point, but like he still needs to push a little bit.
I believe in Eric.
Thanks. Also,
I think he can get it in there and get to the halfway point.
there's something that I want to mention in the in our next segment, actually, that I thought would be fun to talk about. But I'm also getting my girlfriend caught up on Game of Thrones.
Okay, well, now we can talk about me because I gotta tell our viewers, loonies, the internet is a wonderful place, and I
Maybe we
found
can
out.
save
Nah,
that for
that
rumors
is
for the
some
radio.
bullshit.
Okay, all right. I'm just gonna say, I've been watching Game of Thrones a lot because season 5 started. This can be a nice, healthy transition for us.
Yeah.
All right,
But we
perfect.
need to know what's going on in your life, man.
All right, well, that's what I did. I got caught up on Game of Thrones season 4, and then I watched a little bit of season 5, and it's kind of cool. Other shit that's going on in my life. Just working the grind, working a lot, and getting used to. I got a big schedule change coming up in my job, so I will be able to, have more time for video games, kind of like Eric is.
Cool.
I'm not working less, but the schedule is just going to be more beneficial to my time, so that's going to be cool.
Rock and roll.
Anywho, rumors from the radio, where we talk about, stuff we heard, and then we speculate on it without really doing any research. What are we talking about right now?
Well, I kind of wanted to actually just, segue into the fact that the day of, I think it was actually the night before, on Saturday night, before the air of Season 5, Episode 1 of Game of Thrones, there was a big leak of the series onto many popular torrent sites. And so basically, as of this podcast, you can go and find the first 4 episodes on your favorite torrent site. Not that you should do that, but
Not that you
Yeah.
should do that. I'm actually
But
gonna.
that way you won't be spoiled by Facebook when people tell you that Snape killed Dumbledore. When you didn't know that because you didn't pirate the 4 episodes before, because everyone's already fucking seen them.
yeah.
Except
So that's
for me.
That's the thing is like, it kind of makes you need to either HBO needs to release like a bunch like the first 4 episodes now, or like people are gonna go and pirate all of them because that's a
Spoilers.
month of episodes that
Yeah.
people are gonna spoil on Facebook.
Dude, so like the first time I went into the hospital in like February, I literally deleted the Facebook app off of my phone. I have had Facebook withdrawals. Like I am at the point where like occasionally I check Facebook on my fucking browser. I still have not reinstalled the app. I don't know how people who are addicted to Game of Thrones and addicted to Facebook and have not given the choice. Like I made the choice to give up Facebook for a while.
Yeah.
How are those people supposed to fucking give up Facebook for like an entire month just to avoid not being spoiled about a fucking show?
Well, I'm going to give my spin on this because, to be completely honest, I have a lot more faith in the integrity of, social networking than maybe most people. There are huge drawbacks. You can get news spoiled to you. A lot of your friends, maybe they have some extreme political views or problems
Such an
going on.
optimist.
Yeah, a lot of problems going on in their lives that, they've got hard opinions on, like politics in particular are a horrible thing to share through social networking because, you put your voice out there and then you just get likes on Facebook. You have a bunch of friends that agree with you, and then that kind of spreads. And what's a good word, like political agendas and racism and all that nasty stuff is pretty pervasive. However, at the same time, I have not seen any spoilers for Game of Thrones Season 5, which I know for a fact a lot of my friends are tech savvy enough to be able to either torrent or stream the new episodes, which, heads up, loonies, I just want to let you know that, to my knowledge, it is illegal to torrent episodes, but it's not illegal to stream. So if you find a shady website that works for you, that streams the show from China, for instance, then, you're still good there. But I actually watched all 4 episodes.
Funny note, by the way, on China, it's not illegal to sell my mom a $55 copy of Photoshop in China on a CD either. So that's just extra tidbits for anyone who's listening.
Yeah, so we're kind of giving, like, you know, on the download tips for our viewers. But
By the way, if you go to China and they're like, hey, $25 for Photoshop, it's a pirated version on a CD.
So what I want to say about Game of Thrones Season 5, without giving any spoilers away, let's just talk about the news aspect. Because I actually read a little bit of information, and I was trying to work on a pun, because you were saying that they should release the 4 episodes now. And HBO actually has a service called HBO Now. Ha ha ha.
That they released with season 5, episode 1 of Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Well, you know,
and
it's funny too because Netflix has had a lot of success by just releasing the entire season of these shows as soon as they're released. Like as soon as the show is released, it's every single episode.
yeah, and it's part of the culture now to just go ahead and eat and digest
binge
a whole
watch,
bunch
yeah.
of episodes at the same time. Like when you start a
'Cause
new
why the fuck
series,
not?
yeah, when you start a new series, since all of the episodes are on Netflix,
You're
we've
immersed.
become used to watching a whole bunch of them at once. And so, you know, it would make sense for HBO to release all 4 episodes and make them available on HBO Now. But, you know, getting back to the news side rather than our opinions, you know, HBO came out and said that the leaked episodes were actually from a trusted partner. You know, if you'll notice, if you do end up watching one of those pirated episodes,
The watermark.
there's a watermark in the bottom left-hand corner that's kind of obscured. You know, not very professionally, but it's there and it's noticeable. And basically what HBO would do is, with their copies of Game of Thrones, is they would distribute them to you know,
Reviewers.
critics, other people that, you know, have some sort of hand in the pie that is the production of Game of Thrones, just for them to have a copy. It's kind of like a courtesy thing, a privilege for having worked on the show or for giving your critical review of the show. And whoever received that, HBO, you know, they're still looking into it, and they haven't released the name of who it was or what organization. But they basically, you know, violated that trust. They put a watermark on it, and they released it to the public, which, you know, depending on who you are, you could see that, you know, that's a good thing. It's a win for net neutrality, for instance, and free sharing and so forth. But at the same time, you know, the other side is there is a system in place for HBO to be able to make money and to continue to afford making quality programs such as Game of Thrones. So it's a double-sided coin. You know, it's kind of difficult to talk about, but that's the news as far as Game of Thrones goes.
Oh, I think it has to do with gamer culture too. You know, like really, like you were talking about binging, right, on a series. Okay, Bloodborne just came out. What did me and Eric do? We binged the fuck out of that, right? And it's like Bloodborne didn't come out in installments. Now there's gonna be DLC and shit, right?
Yeah.
But like, you get the game, you get the full game. As soon as you get it, you can play through the whole thing. And people are starting to see that with like series, you know, like Orange is the New Black or Lilyhammer, you know, the Netflix series that come out. People are starting to see that. They want just the whole series, the whole season, so that they can binge on it, get the whole story, and move on with their lives.
Right.
And like as a gamer, like most gamers don't like spend a year literally because I mean like most shows go on for like a year, right? It's
Yeah.
most of a year. They don't spend most of a year playing a game. They binge on it for a couple of weeks and then they're like, cool, this was awesome and I've done everything I can do in the game and I've gotten all the story out of it and I'm going to move on to the next game.
I think that part of the appeal of actually binge watching a series is, you know, Netflix is such a vast library, for instance, that you can get your fill. You can get hooked on a show. You can get your fill of it in one day, possibly even destroy relationships with family and friends and work for a day. And then, you know, next you'll be back. You'll become a functioning member of society. It's just, you know, there's good and positive aspects to being able to watch at your leisure. And there are also bad parts to it. Like it can take over your life if there's a show that's come out and there's, you know, 7 seasons with 20 episodes each. That takes a long time to get through. But let's stop talking about Game of Thrones. I mean, Eric, you have one more say, but then we got to move on to the next thing.
All right. Yeah. I mean, think about it this way, though. If they didn't release, it's just interesting that, you know, this binge watching thing is like such a big cultural movement because it is nifty and it is interesting, and a lot of people, like some people, do that with the Netflix shows, and with Game of Thrones, I can imagine it not being like something that they would want to put all 10 episodes out right away because it's obviously I think it's slightly more tense and dramatic than most shows, and so having that like weight gives a lot of people like a lot of momentum to work with the show. And I just think binge watching is interesting because it's cool because it allows you to, you know, if I'm like into a show, I can watch like, you know, 4 hours of it, you know, at night after work or something like that, and then I can also watch another episode of it when I'm getting ready to go to work the next day. That's pretty cool, but also, I mean, it's interesting. It's just interesting to me because, I mean, you couldn't imagine like an 8-hour long like thing coming out on Netflix, right? Like if there was some sort of 8-hour story arc of some thing going on Netflix, you'd be like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But like that's what you
Netflix
do.
shows
You just like so you just like wait for that like that loading screen to give you more shit by saying like, hey, are you still watching? Like,
Right.
go out and
Yeah.
do something. It's just like weird.
One thing that, maybe an interesting question for our viewers to ponder and maybe respond to us about is, loonies, there is this binge-watching thing and a culture of binge-playing video games. I mean, I know people that have real jobs, military personnel, people that work at hospitals who literally, they'll take the day off that a game releases, they'll go to the midnight release, get the game, and they will play it for the entire day before they have to go back to work. Like, these are working people that have important jobs that are better than you and me, generally speaking, arguably, and they take a whole day off just to play through a video game and get their fill, and then they continue playing it for months afterwards, but that's what they do.
Well,
So,
it's entertainment.
Yeah.
People
Oh, yeah.
have to be entertained. Like, unless otherwise, like those people who do those jobs that are very important, probably very fucking boring jobs. Right?
Yeah.
So they need that like day off to play this entertaining game to bring them out of that life because they have to go back to a fucking boring job that's a pillar of society that is important, and if they don't show up the next day, then we're all fucked or something.
Yeah, and like if we don't have video games, then like what? Everybody's just gonna read. That sounds terrible.
Speaking
so
of
boring.
that, well, we'll get into reading later in the show, but there's something that has to do with a lot of reading, but it harkens back to the days of yore of CRPGs.
Well, before we get into that, the question that I want to pose to our viewers is, so with this culture of binge watching and binge playing video games,
What
what's
was the
your
last book you read?
No. Well, I guess you could answer that question as well. But my question personally to you, Loonies, is, what's your favorite style of getting TV shows? Do you like the once-a-week releases, the ritual of sitting down and setting aside time specifically to watch a new episode as it airs? Do you like having all of the episodes available to you at the same time? Or I have an actor friend who works on a couple of independent series as a fight choreographer, and this independent series, they release the episodes whenever they finish filming. So according to their schedule, episode 3 might come out before episode 2 or 1, and so forth. So, what do you think as far as your favorite style of releases for episodes of TV shows, for instance? But let's move on. So another rumor from the radio we've got a little bit of information about a game called Lego Dimensions. And I think that's kind of interesting because it goes along the same lines as Amiibo and Skylanders, where you get action figures and a pedestal that you put them on in order to play as those characters in the video game. And, rumor has it that, there's going to be a starter pack that you could buy for $99.99, which in my personal opinion is kind of cheap, releasing September 27th of this year.
What?
Yeah, it includes the game, a reader, pieces to construct a portal on the device, as well as the characters of Batman, the Batmobile, Gandalf, and Wildstyle from the Lego movie. Little quick note here is that Troy Baker, one of our favorite actors with a very, very sexy voice, is actually going to voice Batman in the video game.
He also has a huge penis.
He also has a huge penis, probably. So what are your guys' opinions on the whole, on a Lego Dimensions video game in the style of, Disney, what's it called? The Disney
Infinity.
Disney Infinity, Skylanders, and so forth.
Well, I have
Before
like
Eric says anything,
Okay.
I want to say you're fucking crazy for saying that $100 for a goddamn video game is cheap. I don't give a fuck if it
No,
gives
I
you
didn't say that
Gandalf.
it's cheap. I said that that's a price that I think is ridiculous. But Eric,
it's a little bit. I think it's actually fair for what comes with it because you're not just
Fuck
getting
Gandalf.
60. You're not getting like $60 worth of a game here. You're getting $60 worth of a game, plus all the peripherals, plus the toys, plus all this business. So, but I would say that I don't know about you two, but I'm probably the one with the most experience with these games because I've played a lot of Disney Infinity, and I actually used to own Skylanders. And I from both of those games, I would say because they're so much fun, like getting the and they are super addicting. Like I remember with Skylanders, at least it was like there's a lot more accessibility, and it's been around long enough to where we went out and got the newest one, and there was another one coming out in like 2 months or something like that. I can't remember. I don't even know if it's out yet or if it's still coming out or whatever. But we got that. We got the platform that came with that one, and then it's like they switch. I can't remember what the thing is called, but they have like two halves, and you can like switch powers with people, a power swap maybe or something. But the thing about that is that you can use older, you can use older toys from the older sets in the new game. You can't like obviously go backwards like that. You can't use the old, new toys in the old games, but anything before that game you can use. So it was like going to the discount store and finding like 6 of these figurines for like $3 is like hell yeah, and then you take it back and you find out that one of them is like already level 20 and you're like, I'll just play around with this for a bit and
You can even find those, I think, at like hobby shops where they sell like Magic the Gathering stuff too, right?
yeah definitely.
In Phoenix, I'm not sure if it's widespread or nationwide, but there's a chain of stores called Zia Record Exchange, and I think it's actually local. But you go in there and you have movies, music, books, as well as different collectible items. And something that I did see was that they did sell video games, peripherals, usually older stuff. But I saw a lot of Skylanders action
Yeah.
figures. So
We got ours at Bookman's actually. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I want you to go ahead and explain, Eric, since you do have experience with it. Explain what the basic premise is for Skylanders specifically. Like, what's the utilization of the different peripherals and equipment that you can buy? Like, how does it work?
So the one that I played, the way that it works is your character that you have that you set on the portal is also in the game, right? And so that action figure holds all the data that reflects the character's level and progress, right? And there's like some big catastrophe going on and an evil dude, and it's Spyro, so it's all cartoony and fun and cool. But there's the game modes consist of like mostly like platforming events and puzzle solving and action, a couple of like
So
a lot
it's-
of combat and skill based stuff. So you can level your characters, you can choose skill trees and all this business. But then you can also there's the thing is like what you're buying with the game is the expectation that you're going to have to buy other parts for the game.
Right.
And so you'll pass by on a side mission door that isn't unlockable unless you buy something for it, right? And so you can go out and buy that thing, and then if you're a completionist, you're going to go out and buy all of
You
the
have to,
things
like,
so
is
that
it
you can
buy Donald Duck to open this door.
You'll be like a guy with a bomb skill. It's like you need a bomb skill to open this door, but none of my guys have bomb skills, so I'm gonna run to the store real quick, grab the guy with bomb skill, and then send it come back and
Oh, okay.
open that door so I can go through that thing and get the
So they basically just involved cars with video games.
It's like plastic DLC. It's really good though. It's fun.
So I have a clarifying question. So would it be fair to break it down as kind of Mario Party-esque mini games is what Skylanders is basically, and you get a platform that you can put action figures. Does data get recorded onto the action figures?
Yeah.
Or-
So they have like a little
okay.
chip on the bottom on their base, right, that connects to the portal, and that's when they pop into the game when you connect them to the portal, right?
Okay, so I thought that you basically just get the action figure to be able to play as that character. I didn't know that there's actually, a data transfer between
Yeah.
the
So
game
it's
and
not
the
linked to your
character.
account. It's linked to the actual action figure.
Yeah, it's like a save state in,
Okay.
in the character. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is kind of
And-
cool, and I could see the
yeah.
appeal of it.
Well,
And
you
then
were talking about earlier, you were like, whoa, what about these really tech savvy people who can break code and possibly, make fake versions of these characters, and put them on the platform just by encoding a chip or, buying a character and recoding it, giving it like max level and awesome items.
Yeah,
blah,
someone
blah,
who's
blah.
tech savvy can probably do
Yeah.
that.
It is kind of a security risk, although these games are kind of aimed for children. So I'm pretty sure if a child could figure that shit out, he's probably set for life.
Okay, so overall, I want to ask you guys, what do you think of Lego Dimensions? Do you think maybe we have too many games that use this particular system? Although, honestly, after hearing about it, I think it's pretty cool. Do you think we have too many games that use that system of collecting action figures and placing them on a pedestal? Or do you think that Lego, that they can put their own spin on it that's fresh and nice?
I think Lego's always awesome, and all the Lego games are pretty great. So I mean, I don't know that there's much they could do wrong here. So I mean, I might end up buying this stuff and might end up playing it, and if I do, I'm almost 100% positive that I'll have fun. So.
My opinion is, kind of in line with yours. Although I don't see myself dropping a lot of money on this. It's just something that I can't really do with my finances. But I can say that I can vouch for Lego. I've seen people play their video games. I've played several Lego video games, and although they look very simple, the gameplay mechanics are like the main focus of what the developers put out there. And so it's almost always super fun and charming and weird and cute. It's something that I can really appreciate.
I would say, like, action figures and video games have always been separate for me.
Yeah.
So it's not a thing you're going to get into?
No.
Yeah, I gotcha.
That's okay. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, and you actually have a legitimate argument. Like, it is
Yeah.
fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think maybe we should go on to our next point here.
All right. So earlier today, I was texting with Eric, just talking about the podcast and what we might talk about. And he mentioned a little bit of information to me that made me super sad. Eric, why don't you drop that bomb on us in case our loonies haven't heard about it?
Okay, so it was I read this from I think it's called Venture Capitalist Post.
VCPost.com.
VCPost.com. So basically, there's been all this like rumor stuff being tossed around the rumor mill about Silent Hills being canceled. Now, Silent Hills was slated to be like this collaboration by Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro, and
Starring Norman Reedus.
yeah, starring Norman Reedus. It's supposed to be this big thing, and like I think it was a month ago, maybe or a little earlier. People started like asking, like, it started becoming this popular like meme being spread around, like, have you seen me? And it was Hideo Kojima, because he'd been removed, his name had been removed from all of the websites regarding Konami, and all of his watermarked like a Hideo Kojima game and Kojima Productions like watermarks on all of the Metal Gear Solid stuff was removed. And so what they've like, I guess it was discovered, or he might have come out and said something about it, but there was a conflict between Hideo Kojima and Konami, and just so you get a reference of what this is, what it's like, Konami is the big blanket company. They own a big, thing where all of
Everything.
these studios work, and so one of the studios is Kojima Productions, and so right now they're working on Metal Gear Solid 5. And they were supposed to be working on Silent Hills as well, which is the latter I was way more excited for. But I guess he's been fired from the company. He was trying, or he's being let go from the company. He was, I think, trying to access like company emails or something like that, and they wouldn't give him access to it, and so they got into a dispute, and basically ended up with him saying, I'm out. I'm not going to do this anymore. He did say that he's going to, here's a quote. I want to reassure fans that I'm 100% involved and will continue working on Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. I am determined to make it the greatest game I've directed to date. Don't miss it. But
Fuck that. I want Silent Hills.
it will be the last game that he works on under Kojima Productions. But I did read
Under
another
Konami.
thing. Under Konami, yeah. I did read another thing, even more recent, that said that might, whoever, I think it's called Cyberland, reports that it was effectively canceled. Not obviously necessarily meaning it's canceled, but the idea of it was enough to scare a bunch of people on the internet, including myself. And this person says that they might not have proper sources or something like that. And the general idea is that it probably won't be canceled, but Hideo Kojima being involved in it is definitely not going to happen. And Del Toro being involved in it is also likely not to happen.
That was the main draw for me. Like, I had
What about
never...
Daryl?
Huh? Yeah, is Norman Reedus
I'm
still...
sure he's
is
still
there?
doing it.
Okay. Yeah, he's just an actor. He's not really involved in the production side of things, the squabbles of development. But me personally, like, I had seen people play Silent Hill franchise, the games. I had seen the movie, although I know that it sucks. Like, it's just
Still
got all
fun.
this... Yeah, it's got all this lore and all this history behind it. The mental aspects of it, it's pretty cerebral, and it's totally interesting to me. And I really thought personally that if Silent Hills was made into a game, because I played PT, that shit was scary,
Oh, yeah.
and I loved
We
it.
Played it together.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
played it together, as a matter of fact. That got me so pumped for it, and it got me so excited, especially since, I am an actor and I follow things. The fact that Guillermo del Toro was attached to the game, as well as Norman Reedus, and I know about Hideo Kojima's legacy, like all those things working in Silent Hill's favor. I thought that this was going to be an amazing game. So the
Seriously.
fact that it's in development hell right now, essentially, like there are all these issues cropping up, that makes me really sad and really worry about the game.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, so there's two things with this. Like, one, like, where does Konami think that they're going to go with this, right? Because, as we've seen, it doesn't matter what the title of the game is. It's the director, it's the atmosphere, it's the game style, the production style of these people that draw people to the game. So, Silent Hills being developed by Konami without Kojima is going to be a disaster. But the other part is just, I guess, like, I don't know, like I said, like, what happens to Daryl? Like, I want to know what happens after Walking Dead season whatever. Like, I'm sure that's, like, Daryl's, like, extended story or some shit. But anyways, like, the point being is that, like, Daryl's now fucking sitting here in this mess of a game where, like, he's an actor who's basically the face of a game now, right?
Yeah.
And the two big people who are going to make the game, like, legitimately, like, what it will be and awesome, they're just gone now. They're like, we can't do anything.
Yeah, the main selling point, once you complete PT, the playable teaser, it's literally just a short cutscene of Norman Reedus walking down the street, and then, then the words Silent Hills come up after naming Guillermo del Toro and Hideo Kojima, and the fact that they're not going to use the Fox engine, like, that's in jeopardy. Did I understand correctly?
Yeah.
And the fact that Guillermo del Toro might drop off and that Hideo Kojima is not involved anymore, that's like 3/4 of the selling points.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention, one of the original point I wanted to mention, the very first Hug Jacket Gamer stream we did, we went out to a GameStop here in Arizona to get a camera to stream PT.
Yeah.
And we got like 12 plus viewers on our very first stream just on PT because people are so fucking excited for Silent Hills.
Yes.
Yeah, and that doesn't sound like a lot.
This-
12 doesn't sound like a lot, but it legitimately
Getting
is.
12 people on fucking Twitch for any fucking
This
video
is-
game is hard as fuck.
This is also like 2 months after that came out.
Yeah, I know. Like, that's how much hype there is for this
Yeah.
game, and now, like, Konami's basically like, fuck it. We don't want the money.
So I have to agree with Tor with like the concept that that these, well, actually both Peter and Tor, the names behind this are kind of the things that are driving it, and they're kind of to like make a metaphor out of it, I guess, or like an example out of it. It'd be like if like Quentin Tarantino and I don't know, Steven Spielberg or somebody were to get together and start working on a movie, and then like halfway through they're like, oh well, you can't use any of Steven Spielberg's effects, and you can't use any of Quentin Tarantino's like script, and also they're both not working on it anymore.
Yeah,
and it's some no-name guy who just got out of school or something.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like, man, I seriously, for me personally, like, I already told you guys that I've never really had the money to put into video games, and I never really put aside the time either, even when video games would become a bargain a couple of years after being released. I just didn't make that a habit, and so seeing Silent Hills, it coming out and having all this great stuff attached to it, I was just really excited to get into a franchise that I know is world famous, very well known, and very highly respected. So this is a big deal for me personally. So what I want to propose that we do right now is we have a moment of silence for this game, Silent Hills, as well as any other games or even, let's say, movies that have been through development hell and maybe they haven't come out yet, or maybe they came out and they were shit, because that happens more often than not. So just a moment to pay your respects.
Well, should I have my final say before or after the moment of silence?
Fucking after.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Kojima. As I would say, you shit the bed. As Angry Joe would say, you done fucked it up. Like,
That's right.
For reals.
If you guys can have anything, if the ultimate solution would come to mind to you right now of how they can unshit the bed, or at least clean the sheets a little bit,
They could call the nurse in. That's what I did.
Eric.
Just bring them back. I bring them back to that as the last project, because I mean, as cool as Metal Gear Solid is, it's not nearly as cool as that game could have been.
I have not been involved or like excited for a Metal Gear Solid game since the one on PlayStation 1, which I didn't know about until I found out about it, and then I loved that game. But every game after that fucking sucked. So why do I give a shit about the next Metal Gear Solid? Give me Silent Hills.
Right, so we're all in agreement. Like,
Yeah.
fuck Metal Gear.
Well,
Try
not
to
fuck
get
Metal Gear.
Well,
I wish they would have done a better job with it. And I wish that I hope this game is great. I guess. But give us Silent Hills. That's what everyone wants. Like,
yeah, so as a collective, like us three, you, me, and Eric, we're all in agreement that Silent Hills is a worthy venture, that in order to fix it, they should bring everybody back. They should try to satisfy Hideo Kojima and make amends.
Fucking like horror games, and I seriously think that Silent Hills is more important than the Metal Gear Solid, and I think Metal Gear ranks higher on horror games for me, but I still think Silent Hills is more important for them.
Agreed. So next, our last thing that we're going to talk about for our Rumors from the Radio is going to be Guitar Hero Live. This trailer came out very recently for it. And I was never a big fan of Guitar Hero or Rock Band. I thought that it was like an overblown fad, and I was right. But that still doesn't mean that it doesn't have gameplay aspects that I enjoyed. Like, it's definitely a party game that gets people going. So Eric, Tor, why don't you guys tell us about a little bit about the trailer as well as your thoughts?
So bro, I was a touring musician myself, bro. This game is so realistic, bro. It's everything real life in bro. Seriously, this is the most real life Guitar Hero ever.
Well, what I took away from it is, it's a live action trailer, and a lot of pieces of the game are live action as well.
That was all sarcasm.
Yeah, I know. You're not really excited about it, are you?
I don't give a fuck about these types of games.
So Guitar Hero Live has a live crowd, and the way it's worked in is basically instead of having your characters be goofy, the goofy, shaggy, woolly mammoth bass guy, he's like a Wookiee,
like the ridiculous, overblown graphics.
Yeah,
you don't
instead
even
of
have
having
a character in the game, I don't think.
Yeah, no, you
It's
do.
just first
He's-
person. You're just.
Oh, in this game,
Yeah.
yeah. No, so in Guitar Hero Live, it's first person. It's from a first person perspective, and you're on the stage, and it's all real life footage, which is interesting because that's not been done before. But the way it's done is that there's kind of like a single take-esque thing going on, where they record the band playing the song live on stage in front of a big, crowd of extras. And one take, they're cheering for you, and they're excited, and they're happy, and they're all singing along. And then in the other take, they're all pissed off, and they're all upset, and all the band members are giving you like dirty looks, and it's a bad time. And the way it works is they take all of these elements, and when you start messing up a lot in the song, then it starts fading over through effects, like special effects, into the bad take of everything. And so then that's when band members and the audience start like booing you and getting upset with you. And then once you start picking it up again, it'll like fade back into the other take, which is kind of interesting. And it was also kind of
totally
cool,
got it
just like seeing, yeah. It was also cool, just like trying to, because for me, I was just trying to pick out like how easy it would be to see, because they have like in the trailer is a stadium, and to me it was interesting to try to pick the line in the crowd where the crowd actually stops, and they started replicating the crowd, and like into the back.
Could you see it?
And I could kind of see something like that. I don't know, actually. I couldn't
Plus,
tell if it was just like
that's like alpha footage too from the trailer. Anyways.
I don't think so. I think it's coming out relatively soon.
Yeah, it is. It is releasing relatively soon, and even though I'm not a huge fan of Guitar Hero type games, like I do recognize that they're a lot of fun. And seeing the trailer, Loonies, I will recommend that you watch it just because it gives you a first person perspective of what it's actually going to be like to play the game. Like if you mess up, then it's almost a seamless transition. What you're seeing on the screen will transition into, the crowd booing you and putting up signs that say you suck.
Just like in real life.
Yeah, your band members will give you stink eye and they'll be like,
Just
"What are you
like in real
doing?" Just
life.
like under their breath. I'm sure that kind of stuff
That
goes on
happens in real life.
Yeah.
The sign things instantly changing doesn't.
Yeah, this person just came with a two-sided sign. One side says you suck.
Just in
Yes.
case. Just in case.
Just in case. Yeah, nobody goes to a concert thinking, you know what, if they're not good, I'm going to just put another side to the
I've
sign.
gotten the stink eye on stage, like, from other band members, like, what the fuck are you doing?
What I want to bring up to you guys is like the different look and the different style of Guitar Hero, because it's the older games, it's very colorful and big. Your characters, your bandmates look ridiculous. But actually, Guitar Hero Live, the new game that's coming out in the trailer, if that's any indication of what it's actually going to look like the interface, everything is dialed back, and it's it's got grittiness and realism, which was really popular in video games.
Except for the part where the Puddle of Mud singer breaks his guitar on stage and breaks half of his drummer's drum kit on stage. And then they also missed the part where the singer punches you in the face while you're playing guitar. But other than that, it looks pretty realistic, guys.
Yeah, it seems like, well, you're being sarcastic, but in my opinion, it looks like the focus is going to be more on the live action immersion aspect to the game, rather than making a bunch of flashing lights appear on the screen and colors and so forth. Like it'll do its best to emotionally affect the player by having your.
I would say though, like the flashing lights just appearing in front of you is more realistic in a band setting, because like, I don't know, like the whole seizure like syndrome thing, like being up on stage, like there's just cameras going and lights going.
They also have, I think, the other like live element aspect that the reason they're calling it Guitar Hero Live, not just the live, crowd and everything, is the fact that there's a live online mode where what happens is you're playing a song, and if you're online, then anywhere else in the world, whoever else is playing online at the same time in the same spot of the song that you're playing, there's they'll be able to compare their scores and your scores in real time as the game is being played. So it's kind of like
becomes like a competition.
Yeah, and so it's like a
Dark
racing
Souls
game, right?
Guitar Hero.
It's like a racing game where you can see how far ahead of you they are, or how far ahead of them you are, or whatever. If you're tied.
Do you guys think that it's been long enough since the last Guitar Hero game, like the last legitimate number in the series of Guitar Hero games, for Guitar Hero to make an effective comeback? Because, I mean, this does seem new enough and different enough. It also feels to me like it's been enough years for it to feel fresh or for it to go ahead and make that comeback.
Yeah.
Well, here's some history about Guitar Hero that I was reading up about today. The people who bought SOE, and now Daybreak Games, they bought the people who made Guitar Hero. I forgot what I think it was Mechatronics or something like that. They were the original people who had bought it or who had made the game.
Harmonix?
Harmonix. Activision bought them, and then this venture capitalist company bought them, and then they went on to create Rock Band. They went on to create Rock Band afterwards. Since then, the Guitar Hero brand has been built by different people, but it's been like 5 years or something like that since the last Guitar Hero title. And it's a brand new company making it. But it's Activision. It's an Activision company. So basically Activision was like, hey, we're going to make another company. We're going to dump a bunch of money, put some programmers in there. Guitar Hero.
Right. And, another thing that is new about Guitar Hero, the new one that's coming out, is the peripherals are going to be different. I don't know too many
6
details.
buttons.
Yeah, I don't know too many details, but there's going to be 6 buttons on the guitar, right?
Yeah, and a row of 3 each, basically, one on top of the other. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, so it'll be a little bit more complex and a little bit more
It'd be
difficult for
more
people.
like playing a guitar, except you don't have 6 buttons on a guitar. You have like 128 frets.
Yeah.
So.
All right, our next segment is going to be Unhealthy Obsessions. These are games that we're looking forward to playing. And actually, me personally, I keep up on game news, but, again, I try to dial it back on what games I do play and what I spend my money on. So, Eric and Tor, you guys chose Titan Souls and Pillars of Eternity. Since I have no idea what these games are about, tell me all about them.
Okay. Well, Pillars of Eternity is basically like a computer RPG.
CRPG. Which stands for computer RPG, but like because of like how old CRPGs are, you could also say crappy RPG. Because like I don't know if you ever played Baldur's Gate. They're great games, but fuck, by today's standards, they're crappy.
It's a game very similar to Baldur's Gate, or some of the other Icewind Dale, Planescape Torment.
Planescape Torment. You could even go as far as like Neverwinter Nights, but like pre-Neverwinter Nights. Neverwinter Nights was kind of an upgrade from this system. This is like, we're talking pre-rendered backgrounds. We're talking text-based combat. We're talking a lot of choose-your-own-adventure, like, you go to the edge of the map and then it asks you, like, do you want to, like, go and venture forth or do you want to, like, rest here, blah, blah, blah. It's a very old school CRPG ripoff, but it's 2015.
So my question to you guys is this, the 2 MMOs that I played were actually 3 MMOs that I played, which maybe none of you guys have played except for one of them. Is it anything like RuneScape, Ragnarok Online, or Dofus?
This is a single-player game.
It's a single-player game.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I would say that like the closest that I could come to is RuneScape, just because back in the day RuneScape had like the very simplified UI and like the
and it was isometric.
Yeah, but like for the most part, no. Like it's not like any MMO. It's a CRPG. It's its own thing.
Yeah, so this game is very very similar to Baldur's Gate and stuff like that. It's got the isometric view. It's top down, and you control a party of characters, right? And the idea behind these games, that the thing that makes them so intriguing and so immense and so involved, is just the amount of things that you can do. Because you can create your character, you can create any member in your party. You can have a party of 6. I think there's a total of 8 or 9 party members that you can swap in and out. The way you encounter the game, the way you interact with everything is your choice. So it's not like this like illusion of choice. It's literally like everything that you choose to do affects everything else in the game and the way everything else plays out. And so, you are this adventurer, you are a party of adventurers, and you're going to figure out this. You're trying to, I believe, stop this like evil corporation or evil like group from doing whatever it is they're doing. But in the meantime, you're like adventuring and leveling up and questing and all this stuff. And at the same time, it's like you also get the stronghold, and so you're like trying to get people to like to defend your stronghold, and you're trying to rally troops and stuff like that, and build it up and fill it with spaces that mean something to gathering more resources and stuff like that.
So there's this trend in recent gaming, in indie games. They take different game types or different genres where they revisit old designs. They just retweak them for a modern understanding of video games and add different gameplay elements to make them fresh. So I want to know what makes Pillars of Eternity narrative-wise a little different, or what's exciting about it. And then I also want to know, do you guys know of any features that they have? Anything that's different from what you'd see in a traditional CRPG?
What's exciting about Pillars of Eternity is the nostalgia and throwback factor, I think. These are basically text-based Dungeons and Dragons campaigns with a graphical UI and like a computer-generated, like system, right? So the cool thing about these games is that they're just vast. I mean, literally, it's like having a dungeon master there with you, because there's so much shit you could do. There's so much shit you could miss. There's so many bad decisions you can make. There's so many good decisions you can make. And they're so simple in their graphics that it allows them to have these very elaborate quest lines and very elaborate character progressions that are basically based off of text-based role-playing, right?
Oh, definitely. I would say that as far as this one goes, it's not like it doesn't seem to me like they're doing too much that's different from other games in the same genre or in the same vein.
They're just making it come from nostalgia.
They're like paying homage to it basically, and they're doing it in a way that's like updated for modern players and stuff like that, with UIs and combat tweaks and stuff like that. But I would say that there is a game that came out last year that did the same thing, right? It's a game that came out. It's called Divinity: Original Sin, and it's for PC, and it's so fucking amazing. It's really good, and it's the same idea, right? It's like this isometric gameplay, but they tweaked it enough to where it became like its own thing, where you can move the camera around anyway. You can the combat is like XCOM, so it's like tile based, and it's tactical, extremely tactical. The environment plays a huge role in it. You can like lift if you're in like a cave, or like a cave with like bandits that live there or something like that, and they have like barrels and crates laying around. You can in combat pick up the barrels and put them in front of you to use as cover or something. You can put them so that it blocks the path and like funnels them in or something like that. You can like knock the barrels over, and if they're full of oil, you can light everybody on fire. You can accidentally light your party on fire. Like, it's crazy. Tor and I played that co-op for like hours, and there were so many times
we
where
didn't
we
even
just
get past the first fucking area.
Yeah.
Like we put like 30 hours in the game, and
Whoa.
we still haven't even gotten past.
I would
the first
highly
city.
recommend that game. It's so
Okay.
insanely good.
Well, I would say that is an evolution of this.
Yeah,
like this
and
is
that's why I get excited
hearkening
about this,
back
'cause-
to what Divinity evolved out of these types of games.
Mm.
I would say like the most reminiscent thing of these types of games might be like Diablo 1 or Diablo 2. But even at the same time, they're not as vast as these games. Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 aren't as vast as these games. There's so much story and all this other stuff. And on top of that, these games are not as linear, and they're not randomly generated, but they're not as linear either. So it's weird. You would really have to have played these games to understand it, but I would recommend them for sure, especially if you like Divinity or any of those other types of isometric games.
Okay, so I've got 3 questions that come to mind. The first question is, would you say that Pillars of Eternity is, a more legitimate, proper throwback to CRPGs of old, and Divinity
Was like
takes
the
that
next step.
idea and adds to it.
Yeah.
Divinity is like the next step. I would say like the precursor to Divinity is Neverwinter Nights series, and the precursor to that would be the Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate, etc.
Okay, so Pillars of Eternity is a more authentic
Icewind Dale,
throwback.
Baldur's
Yeah.
Gate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 3 evolutions, right? Which is Pillars of Eternity, which is like the original, and then you got the Neverwinter Nights where you can kind of like rotate the camera, it's more 3D, and then now you've got Divinity Original Sin where everything is so fucking interactive and like things are complex. We've got 32 gigabytes of RAM. Why not use all of it?
Is it fair of me to speculate that maybe CRPGs, just to help people that haven't played them, for instance, like me, to help people understand what they're kind of about, they're a little bit like MMOs or RPGs that you would play nowadays, except, since it is single-player focused, it allows the developers to create more content, like a vaster continent for you to explore and more things for you to do, as well as they also have that ability because it's not an MMO. They don't have to take into account people trying to break the game or accidentally breaking the game. There aren't so many different paths that have to do with possibly an internet connection or different computers. It's just, a single player game that you have so much to do in. Does that make sense?
Yep.
The most comparable thing to a CRPG that was released on console, that was supported by console, I would say, and Eric might disagree, Dragon Age Origins, I think, is, right? The first one, Dragon Age. Whichever one- the
It's very
first one.
Dragon Age Origins and Star Wars
Nights.
Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Those are games that are very similar
To
to,
a CRPG.
old CRPGs.
I would say that, like,
and they came out with Baldur's
yeah.
Gate Dark Alliance 2 on
Yeah.
PS2 and
So,
So you guys didn't mention that until now. I think that's super important because I think way more people have played Knights of the Old Republic and what was the other one?
Dragon
Dragon
Age.
Age.
Dragon Age. I think that those are super popular series. Like, if you're going to compare this game to those and say it's a similar game style,
I'd even compare it to Diablo. I would just say
Yeah.
that Diablo
Oh,
is
yeah.
very linear, and like they're just kind of like, here's the quest line, here's the storyline, go do this, go do that, you go to the next area. Whereas these games are kind of like
Branching, you can do
Dark
so
Souls,
many
where
things.
it's like, I don't fucking know where I need to go next, but there's a place.
so if you're a fan of those games that we just mentioned, you guys would recommend this to fans of those games,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Anyone who likes top-down strategical role-playing
And
games.
if you like reading, there's
yeah,
a lot
also,
of reading.
we were talking about reading earlier in the podcast.
Yeah.
This game is all fucking reading. They got $5 million, couldn't do a goddamn lick
Yeah, it
of
was a
voice
Kickstarter
acting.
game. They got like four something $1 million, and they made this game, and it's still $40 on Steam, which is totally worth it in my eyes. But they
No
didn't
voice
voice act
acting.
any of it.
All right, so this game is already out right now, too,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
By the way,
We're
if
just
you guys
excited
are,
about
if
it.
you guys
We
are
haven't bought it yet.
listening, we are totally down to voice act your game.
Yeah, mods.
I'm also a professional actor, professional local actor in the Phoenix area, but I've got access to pretty good sound equipment through some friends of mine. One of them's named Tor. Don't use this podcast as an example for the quality. But okay, so this is a game that's already out. It's got a history of getting a lot of support on Kickstarter. It harkens back to games that you guys are nostalgic about, as well as games that our viewers definitely have played in the last decade, like Knights of the Old Republic, for instance. And so you guys highly recommend it, and you're also saying that you're going to play it yourselves, right?
Yes, eventually. I mean, like, when we fucking beat Bloodborne, goddamn game is so fucking long. Like, it's not even that it's long. It's like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to replay this game like 6 times to get every bit of story out of it, because Bloodborne is just too fucking long.
Got it. Well, closing statement, Eric?
I was just gonna say that on Metacritic, it's I think number 3 out of 5 right now of top 5 games.
Oh, holy shit. Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is like a game that I had no idea about that just out of left field is fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Basically.
Got it. So, Loonies, if you're interested in that, take a look at it because I'm excited about it and I had no idea before we started this podcast what the hell it was about. But we've also got another game we wanted to talk about. Why don't you guys tell me about Titan Souls?
Briefly, basically, it's an indie game that's a combination of, I would say, Legend of Zelda and what's the other one? Shadow
Dark
of the
Souls?
Colossus,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Because it's all boss battles,
And it's kind of
and
Dark
you gotta
Souls
learn.
too, because like it's very like, you know, you gotta learn the move sets, and you gotta learn how to dodge your enemies properly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Looks like a combination of those three games. It looks awesome. It's colorful. It's bright. It's got cool puzzle bosses, basically. And
Quick fact: it was a Game Jam game, and the theme of the Game Jam was one. So you have one arrow. You have basically one move, which is roll/run or whatever. You die in one hit, and all bosses die in one hit, which is kind of bullshit because some bosses are like big blobs and you have to like hit them like 6 or 7 times before like their vulnerable part is open. But once their vulnerable part is open, they die in one hit.
Okay, so am I correct in understanding that Game Jam, it's not like a development system for video games, it's just like, I've heard
It's a
that...
competition.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like a monthly competition, see who can create a game in a certain amount of time using a particular theme.
With the theme, yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of cool.
This got developed into a full game though. This was a Game Jam from like 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
So
1
it
years
started
ago?
off small, and
Yeah.
then they got extra funding and they made a full blown game.
No, people fucking loved it. I mean, like when it came out, people were like, "This is fucking awesome." I don't even know if it won the Game Jam game. We didn't do the research because we're Hug Jacket gamers. And but no, I don't even know if it won. But who fucking cares? Like they developed a full game out of it, and I've seen people playing it on Twitch. It is huge. This game is ginormous. There are so many fucking bosses. And each boss has a different mechanic, which is awesome. And in fact, I wish that the developer of this game would get together with FromSoft to make like the ultimate fucking Souls game. Because like the boss mechanics in this game are amazing, and FromSoft's programming and their team is amazing. It would be awesome. I don't know what you think.
Well, I think that technically this would be a Souls game because it is called Titan Souls.
Well, yeah, but it's not made by FromSoft.
I know, I'm just joking. But as far as the games look, like it's got sort
and it
of...
was most likely made by white people. So
the game has, an interesting look to it. It's got an interesting style. It's reminiscent of Pokemon or Legend of Zelda, like the sort of top-down view of the maps. But it's also got, it's got hand-drawn backgrounds and bosses. It's just got a very nice artistic aesthetic to it. And I watched a little bit of gameplay footage right before we did the podcast. We started this podcast today.
there's
and
even a boss that looks like he's fapping.
yeah, there's it seems like a lightning fast, like think on your feet sort of puzzle game with a kill your boss, kill the bad guy mechanic to it. It just seems like something that you would have to be quick on your fingers, I guess, if this is a computer game. Is it for PC? Or is it for...
It's
okay.
out now on Steam, and it's for PC.
Okay, well,
Is
awesome.
it for consoles as well?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Also, another thing to note, there are no trash mobs. It is 100% bosses.
All right, well, that definitely does look like an interesting game, and since it is on Steam and PC is one of my favorite platforms, I might take a look at it. All right, our next segment is called Midnight Therapy Sessions. These are games we're playing currently or games that we revisited from our past that we want to talk about for a little bit. And actually, I have a lot to say for this segment. I'm going to try to get through them really quick.
Me and Eric actually agreed that since we like pretty much dominated the last two, Peter is gonna just kind of take the floor for this one because he's done some therapy sessions.
yeah, I've done quite a bit of therapy over the past couple of weeks. And, the first two games I'm going to talk about, I wasn't actively playing myself. I was watching my girlfriend. She actually, found a couple of good deals at Zia Records, which I mentioned earlier. And so she got South Park, The Stick of Truth, and Fable Anniversary, which, I'll go into details a little bit about them. I didn't actually play Fable Anniversary myself. I just watched her play, so it was kind of like a demo viewing for me, but it got me really excited about the game. And as far as South Park, The Stick of Truth, like that is a game that I played myself whenever it came out a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
Just about a year ago.
By the way, it's South Park, or it's Fable Maniversary.
Maniversary? All right.
Because it's the most manly game. Anyway.
So keeping this brief, Peter.
All right, so let's keep this brief. I just have a few notes about Fable Anniversary. I mentioned that I never played it. I just watched my girlfriend play it. And it got me really pumped up for it because this game is 10 years old. And all the Anniversary Edition does is it adds a few aspects, not too much to the gameplay, but it adds a few new elements. Everything else, graphically, it's new. Everything else, the voice acting, the storyline, everything that you can do is the same as it was 10 years ago. And I'm kind of surprised because it looks and feels current, but it has gameplay elements that really resonate with you in a modern sense. Like it has a choice system that actually looks pretty legitimate. Like it works. I know that Peter Molyneux,
Peter, I always promise more than I deliver, Molyneux.
Yeah, I think that Fable, the very first game, like he might have delivered on that. Am I correct?
He promised a little bit more than that. He said that it was going to be like open world, and it was going to be this and this and this, and then it was like all super like linear and path, like not linear, but all the
semi-linear.
Yeah, all the path like different areas are just different like lengths of land that you can walk basically.
Yeah.
Basically, just like you can walk from the next level to the next level to the next level.
Well, I
but
did,
it was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I did notice that.
His
And
name still rings true.
okay, all right. So everything that you know about Peter Molyneux is still true, but
No. It's Peter. I always promise more than I deliver, Molyneux.
got it. Peter, I always promise more than I deliver, Molyneux. I didn't know about these rumors, that he overpromised things, but just watching Fable's gameplay fresh, having never played it before, and seeing the anniversary edition, like graphically, it's really good. It's got charm. It looks like a lot of fun. And it's definitely a game that I'm going to start playing myself. The only complaint that I have personally, seeing it from my fresh perspective, is that the Anniversary Edition apparently has a lot of freezing issues and like disc problems because watching my girlfriend play, she plays video games just like you and I do. It is therapy for her. It's a way for her to relax. And she's constantly having to save the game because we do have so many issues. And I did a little bit of research. It doesn't have to do with just the disc that we have. It's actually a widespread problem. Like on PC, it had a shitload of issues that they tried to fix, and they haven't completely fixed them, even to this day, even though it came out in 2014, I believe. And for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, like it just constantly has freezing issues. It's really unfortunate. But apart from that, it does look very good. It has a very nice feel to it. It's very clever. And if you've never played Fable before, I'm going to encourage you to do exactly what I'm going to do. Like, I got excited for the game watching somebody else play for it, and I'm going to pick it up myself pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm probably actually going to pick it up because I never got to play Fable.
And I will probably pick it up as well, even though I 100%ed Fable. Because I know I never got the expansions, and I know that this includes the expansions as well. So it'd be kind of cool to play those.
All right, now, South Park, The Stick of Truth. If you are even remotely, like, just 10% of a fan of South Park, holy shit, this game is amazing. Like, the fact that we were talking about development hell with Silent Hills and how unfortunate that is. South Park, The Stick of Truth was also a game that was in development hell for quite a while. The reason for that being that the show's creators, they wanted a lot more control and a lot more input in the game's development because they're gamers themselves. They know what they want. They know what elements they want in their video game. And the developer that they were working with wouldn't give them that freedom. They wouldn't let the creators of the show have that freedom to put what they want in the game.
So they were being cocksuckers.
The developers or the creators?
The developers.
Yeah, they were being cocksuckers. But eventually, they finally got with a studio that would work with them, and they ended up with a game that's sort of a standard RPG. It's got your standard RPG elements where you can pick up lots of different types of gear, and the battle system is, turn-based, regular, normal, everyday, but with a South Park skin and a South Park flair to it. So every moment that you spend in the game, there's a punchline every second, even in your regular old, enemy encounters while you're walking through the world, which, for your information, it's just the town of South Park. It's hilarious. It's absolutely funny, and it's charming and witty. And it made me so happy that she picked up the game, my girlfriend, to experience it because she did get to play it in the past, but she never beat it. She has a bad habit of doing that, as you guys know. But seeing her go through it, like, I'm reminded of when I played it for the first time, and it was just like watching... I don't know how long it actually takes to get through the game in one sitting, but I would venture to say it's like watching a 12-hour episode of South Park, like a good episode of South Park.
Did you ever beat it?
Yeah, I definitely
Okay,
beat the game.
'cause I actually never beat it as well, but I didn't own it. My buddy was just renting it, so I played through quite a bit of it. But I also I was like wary because I didn't want to get through too much of it because I knew just from playing it that I thought it wasn't repeat friendly. Like it was, like once you repeat one segment, like I watched my buddy play it and then I played through it again and I was like, oh, this is terrible because everything's happening the same exact way for at least the first hour.
Yeah. So, I'm going to agree with you there. It's definitely a game that you can play through once, and after that, it's not gonna. It doesn't have too much replay value unless you give it some time. Which at this point, for me, watching Sarah play through it, it's definitely hilarious. One thing that I do want to criticize about the game is there are some jokes in some segments. For instance, you get to go to Canada, and I'm not going to spoil what that entails for you, but that particular joke, some of the jokes run a little long, like they just wear out their welcome, even though they're brilliant, when they get introduced to you. But that's one criticism. Another one is that with the battle system, it's very easy to get overpowered, but the game makes you work for it. So, that's less of a criticism and more of an observation. Like, it's very easy to get overpowered, but the game makes you work for it, so it's still good.
I just wanted to say in closing that everyone really raved about South Park: The Stick of Truth, but I preferred North Branch, The Branch of Fables. Sorry, North Pasture, The Branch of Fables. The game was way better.
All right. So we've got a little dissent in the room, but 2 out of 3, me and Eric like South Park: The Stick of Truth. So
Yeah,
fuck you, Tor.
And 1 out of 10 for pulling that joke off
made-up
horribly.
So my closing thoughts on The Stick of Truth are, it's an RPG with a South Park flair, and it is absolutely perfectly effective in the way that it tries to deliver jokes to you as well as gameplay. Like, you can tell the creators are gamers themselves, and they put exactly what they want into it. Overall, it's a delight to play. It's a worthy effort, and you have to respect any game that's been through development hell and came out as good as this game did, because it's so much fun.
Yeah. So I think we can easily recommend South Park: The Dick of Bluth.
You mean North Pasture, The Branch of Fables.
That game sucks. So let's move on to what else did you have, Peter?
The last game that I want to talk about is a game that I did actually play myself recently.
What is this crappy EA game, you say?
Many of our loonies may not be aware of this, but EA released a SimCities games.
Oh no, I have to download your client to play the game online.
Within a couple of years ago, I think. Was it a year ago or
Was
two?
it less than a year ago, I think?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The game came under a lot of flack because there were a lot of obstacles to people enjoying the game, and
DRM.
it goes without saying, the easier it is to play a game, the better it is. And so what EA did when they released SimCity, the new version, you had to be online constantly.
And they also DRM'd you into your own little fucking box because you couldn't expand out of that.
Yeah, you had very limited capabilities in the game overall, and it was just such a piece of shit, and it totally failed. So when I saw that there was a game on Steam being advertised called City Skylines, and it was $30 rather than $60, which is what you'd expect to pay for a new game.
Also, I don't think it has DRM either.
I went ahead and took a look at it, and I have to say, the game itself is very simple and sleek, and therefore beautiful. Like, it's really not all that complex graphically, but that's totally okay because it makes it.
Isn't about graphics though.
Well, it's not necessarily about graphics, but that's a factor that I want to bring into play because that's something that people might want to talk about. So specifically graphically, it's very simple and elegant looking. The interface and gameplay are such that if you have no idea about city simulators, which me personally, I have no idea because I never played a SimCity game. I tried in the past, and I just thought this is way too complex for me. What Cities Skylines
They are
does,
fucking complex games.
yeah, what Cities Skylines does is it starts you off with some basic tools. Maybe I think that you start off with 3 different building options at the very start,
Great
and
Scott!
once you reach a population limit, you level up and you get more buildings available to you, and then the game teaches you by way of text. But it's very simple. The game teaches you what these new elements are and how to take advantage of them and grow your city. And to be honest, I had a few starts and stops of the game as I was teaching myself how it works. But it was only in the first few levels. Like, I got the hang of it pretty quickly. So I made 2 cities or 3 cities that I kind of messed up my finances, and my city just wasn't working. And I restarted, and I found on my second playthrough, like, I could get to that same level within 5 minutes. What originally took me an hour and a half would just take me 5 minutes to get myself caught up on with the new things that I learned. So I really appreciate that simplicity with Cities Skylines. One other thing that I want to mention is, it is pretty in-depth, and it gets more and more complex as you play. For instance, there's an economy to it. You can click on an individual citizen. You could follow them around town as they go about their business. And it's simple stuff, like where they work and where they live and where they shop. But, that all plays into the game's economy. And even on that small, simple level, when you add the fact that your population is in the tens of thousands after just a couple of hours of gameplay, it becomes so super complex and interesting to see traffic patterns, whether your citizens are happy, based on all your decision making. So it's really awesome, and it's really refreshing for me to be able to see all this stuff and get into a city sim without having any prior experience at all this easily.
Yeah, I mean, those are all a lot of old features from the SimCity games. But the SimCity games, from what I've heard, I haven't played Cities Skylines, but I have played SimCity since, like, SimCity 2001 or something like that. They're fucking complex games because it's all numbers, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's literally like a city management simulator where you're the mayor, and you have to make decisions on whether to spend money on schools, or to spend money on the prison system, or to spend money on this or that, or the water line, or if we need to connect water lines, where we should put residential housing. Like, those were fucking complex games. This seems to have simplified it a little bit, but it still has that complexity that draws people to the SimCity games.
I think my city's only ever lasted, like, I don't know, like 2 months or 3 months, until, like, everybody was just super pissed and like
poor.
something broke, and, like, all the kids were uneducated, and, like, it was just like
I also found that,
but it was fun.
Like, I've seen, like, some of the mechanics in City Skylines versus the mechanics in some of the older SimCities games. And the older SimCities games are kind of like, like, oh, here, you place a school here, and here's the circle of where the school influences.
Yeah.
Whereas I think City Skylines kind of gives you more of a, like, here's the actual area, like, each house that, like, the school is going to affect.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's cool.
Like,
What it actually does is it's kind of the same thing. You have a circle of sphere of influence, you might say.
but it shows you, like, it will affect this house versus it will not affect this house, right?
Yeah. So
It
you
doesn't
have
do that in SimCity.
you have roads that all connect when you put down a fire station or a school. It shows you a general sphere of influence that what houses it would reach, what buildings it would reach to
Via the
service.
road?
Via the road, so via the circle actually. But at the same time, on the road, it also highlights in green like where it's easiest for the citizens, like which citizens have it the easiest to get to that building or be serviced by that building, and then the green like kind of fades away. And when you place down a building, any house or other building that's influenced by you placing it there, you get a big happy face because the citizens are glad that they have education or they have protection from fires.
Right.
It's.
I mean, that's SimCity and it's generalist, but, like, yeah, I don't know. I just think, well, especially with the last SimCity was such a fucking debacle, right? Because, like, first of all, it was like a DRM bomb. Like, they literally just, like, put every DRM they could onto it. And then when you could finally log in 3 days later after you paid $60 for the game, you could only actually build on this plot of land that they gave you, and you couldn't actually ever expand to any other plot of land outside of that unless you wanted to make a new city, which was fucking bullshit, right? Like,
Yeah, the building
but
space
this,
was a
apparently
small.
You can actually go and buy more land, right? You can
Yeah.
make your map bigger, right?
Yeah, so with SimCity specifically, like they gave you a very small plot of land, and that was a big criticism right away. In addition to the DRM stuff,
Yeah, because I build fucking 2 roads that have already fucking filled up my plot of land. What the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Build like a dick-shaped industrial center?
with city skylines, you could buy land right away, and you could expand. You could buy other plots of land nearby, based on what level you're on. So the bigger your city gets, the more land you'll eventually be able to buy, and it can become huge. It can become massive. Like by comparison to what SimCity, the SimCity shit they tried to pull, like it is huge.
I mean, like, playing online, they should have learned from, like, Spore, like, dick cities everywhere.
Right.
Like, seriously, there was dick cities everywhere in fucking, in SimCity when it came out, because there was nothing to do. Like, literally, there's so little space that you couldn't do anything. And, like, the next city over would always be just, like, a dick, because, like, why not?
Why not?
Fuck this game. I paid $60 for it.
Plus, it's a lot
we
easier to make
export
a-
dildos, and in fact, we make a lot of money. So
Well, and dicks make very efficient cities.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do make very because you have the one highway that like outlines it and goes all the way around.
Yep.
And it's a lot more difficult to do a vagina city because I mean that's just less recognizable.
Also,
Yeah,
they're
no-
very complicated.
They're
Well,
very
I've
complex.
never even seen one. So
Yeah, and there's a thing called the G spot that a lot of people can't even find. So that'd be hell to navigate with the city.
Yeah.
But to wrap up City Skylines, I did a little bit of research before I started playing the game. Essentially, what you can take away from it is, it's simple and beautiful and therefore elegant. And it's just a modern city simulator that takes the mistakes that EA made and shits all over them and says, fuck you, man. We can make a better city simulator for half the price, and we could give our players way more freedom.
And
Also,
not put like the DRM chastity belt of chastity belts on it. Like,
yeah.
the only DRM there is Steam, and you can still play the game offline.
And that's another thing. With Steam, they have a Steam Workshop. There are so many amazing mods, like things that definitely help you explore new aspects of the game, that give you new starting areas and new terrain objects, and just like it's great what the community has done with City Skylines, and that's so refreshing to see after the whole EA debacle. Like seriously, it's amazing that I'm so impressed with it, and I'm only so impressed with it because of all the ways that EA messed up with their last release. They were like the name when it came to city simulators up until when they released SimCity, the last one. So,
but what's his name? I don't think works for the company anymore.
what is his name? Maxis?
No, Maxis is the company, but the guy who made Spore in the SimCity games, in the Sims games.
Oh, Sam, whatever. Or?
Sam Raimi?
Yeah, I don't think he works for them. Whatever his name is, I don't think he works for them anymore.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah. It's not Peter. I always promise more than I deliver more than you. That's who it's not.
All right. Well, I think that's the show, right, Peter?
Right?
Are we going to talk about Planet Side 2?
Nah.
Oh, did you want
I participated in Service Smash. I fell asleep halfway through it because we got our asses beat. But it's cool. It's a fun event. If anyone plays Planet Side 2, which I've been playing a little bit, it is actually an event that you want to participate in because it is basically a maxed out map. One faction versus another faction. It's basically they pit one server versus another. It's a fun thing. Planet Side 2 Battles or something like that is their website there. But I participated in it last Saturday. It was a lot of fun. The other server was much more prepared than we were.
Gotcha.
But, yeah, it was fun. Because it was very organized, And, people were doing things that they, it felt like being a part of an actual army, which is fun.
Yeah, it sounds.
Especially like for me, like I could never be in the army. I have Crohn's, so like I would never be able to do that. But in this video game, I was able to like be a medic who had some kind of effect
Significance,
on, yeah, a little bit, kind of. I mean, like I said, I passed out halfway through the battle, so I mean,
You would be a terrible soldier.
Medic! God damn it, he's sleeping again.
All right, so Loonies, thank you for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate it, and we love you. I can see that Eric and Tor are both getting kind of tired. The reason that this episode is so long is, last week I had the type of migraine that feels like a gunshot wound to the head, and I was throwing up everywhere. Tor was also incapacitated, going to the hospital again.
Physically dead.
Yeah,
Week,
And I was losing blood in Bloodborne.
yeah, so
I was dead at the time. It wasn't me.
I didn't actually communicate this with with my buddies here, but I figured that we could skip 1 week and just make the next podcast a little extra long. So hopefully we were still entertaining. To recap things that we talked about today, rumors from the radio. We talked about the potential canceling of Silent Hills, as well as Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro leaving the production, as well as the loss of the Fox engine, which is what makes Metal Gear so beautiful. We talked about Lego Dimensions, Skylanders ripoff, but still
how to pay $100 for a video game and some action figures.
Still looking kind of worth it, though. We talked about Guitar Hero Live as well.
The most realistic Guitar Hero to date.
Titan Souls and Pillars of Eternity were our unhealthy obsessions. They're the games that we're looking forward to, and we just
City Skyline, South Park, Stick of Truth, The Fable Anniversary, and PlanetSide 2. Have a good night.
All right. Fuck you, Eric. Have a good night, Loonies. You take care. And again, leave us comments. Talk about the show. Let us know what you want us to talk about next time.
Bye.
At Hugjacket Gamers, Facebook.com/HugjacketGamers.
Bye.
Now that wasn't too painful, was it? We'll see you again next week for your scheduled treatment.